coached by Greg, come on up, and I'd like to get a picture with everybody when we're all said and done. We should probably be pulling the mats out and having old-timers turn over when we're done. Better yet, there's got to be about 5 or 6 of you that have a little eligibility left. Maybe we should put together a team of all over 40s who can win the NCAA title and have a great dream team with 40 monsters right there. Problem is, we're all over a weight class. Nobody can make 118 except for Garrett. I've been with him when he cuts weight and it's not fun. I teach a theory of coaching wrestling class at Luther every other year, and on day one I always ask students, hey, what qualities do you see in great coaches? And they throw out all the things you'd expect to hear from being a great coach, and every time they throw it out, and every time I start that day one, I think of Greg, and I relate everything to Greg Lonning. As they're throwing things out, I just keep thinking about Greg Lonning. And over the years I've got to say, okay, some of these things Greg really has. Some of these things Greg doesn't really have. And I'll share a couple of those here in just a minute. But for the guys that wrestle for Greg, and I've told this to people for decades, he's in the top 1-2% of wrestling coaches in the country at all levels. That's the absolute truth. And he could coach anything. It happened to be wrestling. If he coached a different sport, he'd be in the top echelon of that sport as well. He was unbelievable. What made him such a great coach? Well, in describing qualities of great coaches in my theory of coaching wrestling class, students offer things like, great coaches are knowledgeable of the sport. Yeah, Greg was knowledgeable. Great coaches are great technically. They know the sport technically very well. Yeah, Greg was good enough in this area, but I honestly probably can only tell you 1 or 2 things technically that I learned from Greg, and I'll bet that a lot of people in the room here might say the same thing, maybe 1 or 2 things we learned from him, but he was good there. Another thing they say is, well, great coaches are super organized and have great practice plans. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound like Greg. Organized? I'd say he kind of flew more by the seat of his pants a lot of times walking into practice with Connor and Brand in tow when I was there, bag of Doritos and drinking a Mountain Dew, on the way to practice is what it was, wearing all these double extra large sweatshirts and shorts. I don't think he owned a stopwatch or a whistle, but he could whistle really well. Anybody in the family, can you imitate that? I love it. It's great. But the stopwatch thing was a real problem when he wrestled for him because there wasn't no stopwatch. And he would, whatever it was, he would decide how long he wanted to go and then would proclaim just 5 more minutes. We're just going to go 5 more minutes. And he had this idea of what practice wanted to look like. I don't think that's, that stopwatch had no sense of what time was. 5 more minutes? What are you talking about? That 5 minutes turned into another 5 minutes. We're almost done. Keep going. We're almost there. And that mantra turned into hours of extra work. He tricked us. He tricked us over and over and over again, and somehow we kept buying it. Which comes to the qualities he was so great at. When students in my theory of coaching wrestling class start saying, well, good coaches are great communicators, and they're great motivators, and they show their athletes they care about them outside of the sport. On these qualities, Greg was off the charts good. Like the best ever good. Like so rare to be around a person this good. And that's why we're all feeling very, very lucky that we do it, and why it hurts so much that he left us early. He instilled in us a desire to be great, and somehow also the confidence to be great. Somebody said it, John, I think said it earlier. Well, Greg said you did. You didn't question it. You did it because you knew it was the best thing for you. And maybe more importantly, you did it because you didn't want to let it down. Like Gara said yesterday, she hears Greg telling her, you got to do it, Gara. Moran said earlier, you got to do it. We all are probably hearing some version of that voice in our heads right now and have been over the last few weeks and will for the rest of our lives. Greg did so many things for us as wrestlers. Picked us up in the morning in that big old maroon van. What's that thing called, Connor? What's the name of that thing?
Beauville. Chevy Beauville.
Beauville. Chevy Beauville. Drove around to all the apartments in La Crosse. Picked us up. Sometimes he'd walk in the dorm rooms and get people as those that watch this Hall of Fame speech heard about. Let us borrow his vehicle when we needed it. One time I borrowed the big Beauville to move. Bridget and I were moving from one apartment to another. Got in a fender bender with the old Beauville, but it was so big and strong it didn't hurt that. But I hurt the other car, and Greg's no problem. Got the insurance. And, I didn't think anything need of it. He just took care of it. He helped us get jobs. Drilled with us in the mornings. Heard stories last night of Marvin, Eric, Jeff, Greg driving to Oskaloosa in the mornings, early in the morning, to drill with him early in the morning before he went, teaching, and then back to Central to work out. He did that at lacrosse all the time too. Greg Lewis said last night when he found out when he got to lacrosse, he found out Greg was drilling with guys. He's like, well, why did I get invited to drill? I want to drill too. And if he had that idea, he wanted to be a part of it. He wanted to be in it. One time he let me store my 1972 Chevelle in Keeley and Greg's garage for weeks. Sorry about that, Keeley. He bought us beer, like Jeff said, at the opening team meeting. That's one of the things he did for us. Man, I never expected that. You go to the backyard and there's beer in the backyard. It's crazy. He convinced Keeley to let guys stay in his basement over and over again. Probably got that from you, RJ, from your wife. Let people stay in the basement. And how many? Walt, I think, lived there for a while. And he had a cat. Walt brought a cat. And in hotel rooms, I remember crashing in your hotel rooms with you at Midlands one time. And I think Connor and Brand were both there. And that was the year we went to wrestling Midlands. And the lacrosse guys got beat out. John was there coaching, and he placed, I think, third that year at Midlands. And so he was wrestling on day 2. So I think Marvin took the team back to lacrosse on the evening of day 1. John was my buddy, and so I asked Greg, can I stay with you and watch him? And so we did, and crashed in their hotel room. And I remember the next morning getting up and swimming with the kids early, out of the pool, indoor, outdoor pool down at the Midlands. I don't remember that or not. And we watched John get third, and I can't remember what car we had, but it was a pretty small car we had. And we get done with Midlands, it's dark, it's late, leaving Chicago, driving back to lacrosse, and kids are tired to get home. They've been at the tournament all day long. I think one of them was maybe Maria was crying. And we load up in this car, we're jammed in there, he let me stay and ride back with you. So I'm in the front seat, Keely's in the back with the 2 kids, Greg's driving, and we got stuff piled up everywhere in the car. With a stroller. Eventually the stroller hit in my lap. We start driving, and we're going through Chicago, and Greg has got it floored. The car is floored, and we're just screaming. And Keely's like, Greg, what are you doing? Slow down. And I'm starting to get a little nervous. We're taking exit ramps, and it's like, Greg got a little nervous. Sometimes he would kind of clear his throat. Keely, I'm trying. I'm not sure what's going on. And he's like, Mitch, the accelerator's stuck. He's riding the brakes. Brakes, we're doing 80 miles an hour, taking the exit ramps, the brakes are right, I can smell the brakes burning. We're like, what is going on? Keely's in the back, you didn't want to let Keely know. It's like, Greg, slow down. And I'm like, what is, and we start jostling things. Here the stroller was jammed out on the accelerator pedal the entire time. So then I had to still in my lap the rest of the way. Through last night and over the last few weeks, you hear a lot of things that I didn't know, the things Greg had done for people. And hopefully some of those will come out in the open mic session. But he was so unselfish. And he's always there to guide us and listen to our struggles and push us and support us to be great. But most importantly, the thing I think that makes Greg really, really special is this. He believed in us more than we believed in ourselves. An unwavering belief, an unbelievable commitment to help us, to make us happy, led us to wanting to be great for Greg. Through his daily actions and words, Greg was little by little infusing us with confidence that was unbelievable. During Greg's Hall of Fame acceptance speech a couple years ago, he said that he thought he was very hard on his wrestlers, and Brandon Pinscover last night said, I never felt that. He was just bringing out the best in us. I never felt that he was hard on us, and I agree, and I met everybody that wrestled for him here in the room feel that as well. Greg felt that, we didn't feel that, he was just bringing out the best in us. Yesterday, Connor talked about how do you put into words who this person is. He's Superman. You can't explain it to anybody. And over the years, I've tried to explain it, what it's like to wrestle for Greg Lonning. And I do it, and you can see a glaze come over people's faces that you can't get it across. But here's the closest thing, and I think you have a different phrase for it, Miranda. You said earlier, the great Kool-Aid, or drinking the Kool-Aid. To me, it's like you're under a spell. You're in a trance. You're something bigger than you really were. And you felt unstoppable with Greg within you. And that's the key, within you. I remember after a few months when I graduated and was in grad school at Iowa State, I started to come out of that trance because I wasn't interacting with Greg every day. I wasn't as good as I thought I was because he wasn't there telling me as good as I was every day. And so, like me and you, we wanted that again. So we reached out to him and we called him, and Greg took every call and continued to allow us to be in that trance at some level, that great infused trance. Talking with Greg made us better. I know Greg's colleagues here at Luther, the faculty and staff and students that he interacted with, all felt the same way. They felt the same positive power of a Greg-induced trance and loved it, just like we did as wrestlers. Even though he might not have worked 8-hour days here at Luther College, one time I stopped by to see him in his office. I went to the union, I tried to catch him, and I would never catch him.